For this session, I wrote 67 words. For this session, I wrote 43 words. For this session, I wrote 47 words. Over the weekend, I did some spring cleaning and I rearranged our room to accommodate the plentiful books I have acquired. This morning, I woke up at 5, went to the sauna, did some breath and body work, and then I read some more in Demons. I'm now at page 278. I want to read a little bit of an excerpt. Stavrogin says, "Do you like children?" to Kirilov. "I do," Kirilov responded, rather indifferently, however. "So you love life too?" "Yes, I love life too. What of it?" "If you should decide to shoot yourself." "What do you mean? Why put them together? Life is one thing and that's another. Life exists, but death doesn't exist at all." I'm glad I picked up Demons and started reading this because there are certain areas that it sheds more clarity on than the version translated by Constance Garnett, which is titled The Possessed. But I still do prefer Constance Garnett's translation over Robert Maguire's. I'm going to share another excerpt. "I don't think so," Stavrogin observed cautiously. This is him responding to Shatov. You took it in ardently and modified it ardently without noticing it. Why, the very fact that you've reduced God to a simple attribute of nationality." In previous vlogs, where I shared that same excerpt from Constance Garnett's translation, I think it was translated better. And by better, I mean that I think it was translated more smoothly. However, this does read much more quickly than Garnett's translation. Moving on to new books in my collection. First up, we have Volume 2 of Robert Musil's The Man Without Qualities. And again, this is the version translated by Sophie Wilkins and Burton Pike. To give you a comparison, let me show you Volume 1. This is Volume 2, and then Volume 1, Volume 2. There is a version of Sophie Wilkins' translation that combines the two volumes into one tome, but I think it does without the little extras that this book or this version has, because the total page count is almost 1,200 pages, and I think the one with just Sophie Wilkins' bit is about 1,000 or so. Next up, we have, finally, Andrei Tarkovsky's Sculpting in Time. Then we have Gaston Bachelard's The Psychoanalysis of Fire. And the last two in my haul, we have Jacques Derrida, Dissemination, and then Petersburg by Andre Belly, I don't know. But this is the one translated by John Ellsworth. There is another translation of this done by Macduff, and this is the Penguin Classics version. I'm not sure if this is the same Macduff that did The Brothers Karamazov, also for Penguin by Dostoevsky. I loved that translation, but for this book in particular, after doing some prose comparisons, I actually prefer John Ellsworth translation, so I picked this one up. But depending on how much I enjoy this book, I will probably pick up Macduff's translation as well, because I think he's an interesting translator. If I had to rank my favorite translators for Russian literature, in first place would be Macduff, purely for his work on The Brothers Karamazov, and then second place would be Stephen Pearl, And then tied for third would be Dave Magershak and Constance Garnett. And then in fourth place, it would be Elmer and Louise Maud, who were friends of Tolstoy's and primarily translated his works. And they're only fourth because they were very specifically linked to Tolstoy. I haven't included Vladimir Nabokov and his son Dmitri in my list of favorite translators because I've yet to read any translated works done by them of other authors, so that is to be determined. And then with Petersburg, we'll see how I feel about John Ellsworth after I'm done with this. So far, he seems very, very promising. Honorable mentions to PNV. I have incredible respect for their works, however, their enjoyability factor is a little bit lower for me. I actually read The Idiot by Dostoevsky, translated by them, and that was difficult to get through. I finished it, but it took me 2 tries. And then I do have Constance Garnett's translation, so I'm curious to compare my experience after reading her version. Anyways, that is it for this vlog. I'm going to get to my writing session in a little bit, and then once I have that done, I will add that clip at the end. For this session, I wrote 74 words.